Going. Hello, beautiful Lovetarians. This is first podcast of 2022, and the theme of the podcast in this year is freedom. We begin with restoring your health and enhancing your health naturally. My guest today is a naturopath and health advocate, Tobias Laube. He is well-educated, well-read, incredible individual who really is passionate about helping people to be healthy naturally and have, health freedom. That is one of your slogans, isn't it, Tobias?
That's right. Yes, correct.
Would you like to tell? Yeah, hello and welcome. I'm so excited, because this is really something that is so important in this time to talk about freedom of choice, being free from fear, and of course, taking control of your health, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I guess there's this global awareness rising that we don't want to be dependent on when it comes to health anymore, to the doctor, to the pharmaceutical industries, to pharmaceuticals in general. And so many people start to eat healthy, look into, okay, do I need antibiotics now? Do I need painkillers now? And they think twice. They consider this more. So they wonder, why do I always have to go to the doctor? And am I dependent on him? And does he mean that I am healthy or not? So we're all about being free when it comes to becoming healthy or not.
Absolutely. So would you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you get into naturopathy? What is the difference between naturopathic medicine and other medicine? And what's your deal?
Yes, right. Well, my story really began in 2008, in autumn 2008. I came across this book. I read this special book, and the book speaks about a man and his discovery, or let's say how he stumbled upon a solution that freed two of his workers from malaria. Two of his workers that he was in the Amazon rainforest with had malaria very heavily, and thinking, this man being a scientist, an engineer, coming from an engineer kind of mindset, he thought, what can I do? And he used a certain solution that he had at his disposal, and to his amazement, these workers recovered very, very quickly. So being amazed about this experience, because malaria used to be, if not still, one of the top killers of humankind, and mosquitoes in general kill the most people in the world. So a long story short, but he investigated and spent a lot of time and research to see what has happened there. And he tried always from the first, he's tried this remedy on himself. He had volunteers that said, I have this complaint, I have this disease, I'm willing to try to see if there's any change. And this book that I read describes really his career. So maybe the first 10 years after he stumbled upon this solution. And he explains how, of course, his interest was to make this solution public, to bring it to the people, to contact institutions, very known people, rich people that claim that they are involved and have let's say the health and well-being of the planet at heart. So certain foundations that work with the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
The World Health Organization itself. He contacted celebrities and so on. And when you read the story, very often I personally always had to ask myself, do I want to laugh or cry right now? And you don't know. So that's how absurd or even random the experience was. So his story is very humble. It's sad, but it's at the same time, it's very, very insightful. And I am convinced that this book triggered something inside of me. So from then onwards, I was full flame of telling people about this. And,
you want to tell what the title of the book was?
It's the breakthrough of the second millennium. So Jim Humble, MMS breakthrough.
Perfect.
Yes, very commendable. It is getting more difficult to acquire this book, I have to say that. So if people want to and have interest in this book, they can contact me, they can contact you, and we can help them out. Well, from then onwards, at the very beginning, it was just a topic that I enjoyed talking about and that I found important to discuss with people. Years later, in 2013, 14, I studied reflexology. I very quickly understood how reflexology, foot reflexology, increases the blood supply, the blood flow in the body. And again, literature exists, 4,000-year-old literature, how certain health conditions were disappearing, were improving with the application of firm, good reflexology. Again, today there is reflexology and reflexology, so you can find very good reflexologists or weekend course reflexologist practitioners.
I'm going to interrupt here because on the first podcast last year we had Rubina Morton, who is like a master reflexologist. So it's a very good podcast, the first one to listen to.
Okay, great.
But then tell us, okay, reflexology is awesome, but I want to talk about naturopathy. How did you get into it? 2016, you study at the great German university, right?
Yes, correct. With reflexology alone, I started to not be completely happy anymore in what I was able to create, because again, as you said very beautifully in the beginning, I'm about, what are all the ways how I can help people in freeing things, freeing from disease. I don't want to say certain words, of course, so I looked into naturopathy. Germany is known for the Heilpraktikerstudium, which is the translated basically naturopathy, and I started to study that in Hamburg. I already maybe was pre-primed that even naturopathy might not be able to, or might not be allowed to, go to a certain extent. Let's say university information study that they teach. But I was aware of that, and I just, after that study, deepened my knowledge, my own. I had very good friends, very good contacts. I got in touch with doctors, oncologists, virologists, acupuncturists from China, and again, it's amazing how many people, medicine practitioners naturally, or even allopathy, oncology, know a lot about the truth of how to deal with cancer, with disease, with viral infections, but they practice a certain limitation in their clinic, and they admit that. So when you meet them privately, you can find out more. Then might be
we're just gonna not, everybody knows unspoken truths about what is the other medicine about and what is the alternative way all about, right? It's like patents are there's no patents there, nature is not patented, blah blah blah, So can you tell us what is the difference between naturopathic medicine actually and the other medicine, like in one sentence, if you could nail it? How do they see disease differently?
Right. First of all, to make it very simple, allopathy, that's mainstream medicine, looks at a sick person and tries to figure out why they're sick and how we can get away from sickness. Naturopathy has studied and has observed the healthy people and knows, or let's say has observed, has found out what is missing, or what is decreasing once they develop symptoms and become sick. To me, and this, by the way, you can ask your GP, you can ask your doctor, and he will admit, yes, we are looking at sick people to find solutions. But to me, this is as ridiculous as trying to ask a poor person, a beggar, hey, how can you teach me how to get rich? And let him answer. And surely there are some people that say, I can teach you how to get rich. I am not, but I can teach you. So I would rather ask the rich person, if my interest is to get rich, how have you developed your wealth? Sorry. So naturopathy is observing the ways that we can trigger the healing effects, the natural occurring healing effects of the human body, or even of animals. And the pharmaceutical industry, that is very much the supplier of everything for the medical industry, is looking into how can we treat symptoms, right? And so if I'm interested in treating symptoms, it would be, again, you don't need to be a doctor to understand this. You don't need to be a mechanic to understand the following. But if in my car there is a light bulb starting to blink that says engine failure or whatever danger or risk, and I go to the mechanic and he says, of course I can help you, I just take the light bulb out so it stops blinking and now the problem is gone. I need to study mechanics to understand, hey, I don't think the problem is gone. The light bulb was switched, started to go on for such a reason. So very much this is the way that pharmaceuticals work.
Yeah. So they don't really address the root cause, and they create a lot of side effects, right? So some of it even silences it, like, covers it up for a moment. You don't feel the pain, but it's like the body is festering oftentimes, right? And it develops over time. I think good example is like, how the Western medicine treats cancer, right? With chemo and radiation. The body is nuked, everything is killed, and then the body, you might be in remission for a few years, but it comes back a lot of times, right? And it gets worse because the body has been really wiped and not nourished later on, not prepared, right?
What's important to distinguish, though, is that, of course, when it comes to acute emergencies, let's say a car accident, broken bones sometimes even, or even, if someone gets wounded from an accident, from shark bite, let's say, bring me to the doctor.
Oh yes, take me to the hospital.
Give me morphine, right? Morphine works, and ibuprofen works, and they can save lives, and aspirin thins the blood and can save you from a heart attack. And I want that in the case of a heart attack, rather than a kale juice.
Yeah.
But then again, when it comes to disease management,
chronic disease, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes, and if we would make a survey in the world, I'm pretty sure that the results would show many people think, what is going on? I mean, since 2 years, the whole world knows about the latest health situation that we have in the world. But even before, cancer, arthritis, heart attacks is skyrocketing. Osteoporosis is going through the roof in the world. But then at the same time, milk consumption is going through the roof. The Chinese are buying cows from Germany and Switzerland because the Chinese want milk now in their tea. 4,000 years long, they didn't put any milk in their tea. And so milk consumption production is going up. Why is osteoporosis, bone decay, going up? And many situations like this one, you wonder, why is that? If we apparently if so many doctors are recommending blood thinners, why are there still so many heart attacks and strokes in the world?
But I'm hearing also from different alternative doctors or practitioners that we are completely overloaded with toxins, whether it's environmental toxins or radio waves, the food, the water, the air. Yeah. I mean, the body did not have to deal with that even 50 years ago. Every year, exactly. Of course.
Yes, and that's a very good point, Natalia, because recently I was at a coffee store here, and this coffee store started to sell reusable cups to move away from plastic. Great idea. A lot of people want to use less plastic. They believe that plastic is a major problem of the planet. There are other theories, but anyway. And so I looked at the cups, and I was told by the man that attended me, they are bamboo cups. They're made out of bamboo strips, and they are glued together to form this cup. And so I looked into it, and I found that the glue is carcinogenic.
Oh, right.
And if you pour in 80-degree hot water or coffee, whatever, do we have to start? I mean, science exists that if you heat up substances, then chemicals can get released. A lot of people do not leave their plastic water bottles in the sun because they know that the sun can make the plastic leak chemicals into the water that you don't want inside your body. So moving away from plastic to an alternative. What is the alternative? If it's not plastic, great. But then again, before throwaway cups, if it's paper or anything, what other chemicals are inside of there that you mix with a boiling substance? If food on a plastic plate at a fair, or a takeaway coffee cup with 80 degrees easy hot coffee, what is happening now that you're now drinking, maybe on a regular basis? So a lot of industrial toxins and substances are entering our body and are causing havoc.
Yeah.
Many. Yeah.
So, well, you could see correlation between diseases and everything that had been entered into atmosphere through earth, through water, through air, in our food, in our air, everywhere. And the more industrial, more industrial place, more concentration of people, more 5G, 4G, whatever G radio waves, and obviously it all gets stored in the body, right? So now restoring our health naturally, what would be the first step? How can we begin?
Right. My first suggestion would always be, if I'm dealing with a person that has a health problem, a disease, if cancer or allergy or chronic or even viral, it's not a coincidence. Nothing just appears. A heart attack or a stroke doesn't just appear. It's not that there is select one of the gods that we have at disposal that says, hey, you tomorrow heart attack. I don't believe in that. I think there's a cause and effect in everything. So if we're talking about a heart attack, let's say, what have you done to your body that caused the heart attack? We instantly understand that when we go into machines. Let's take our car. Most people drive a car, but they don't know and don't understand what's happening inside the car that it makes it move. But if anything goes wrong in the car, we always think, okay, what screw got loose, or what oil is missing, or have I done this wrong? And then most likely the mechanic says, something is wear and tear, and other things is the way you drive, the way you treat the car. So I ask them about their diet. I ask clients about their diet, first of all. I ask them about what other things they do, lifestyle. I ask them about what are they not doing. For instance, I'm bringing up things that they might have forgotten or that they've neglected, or yes. So, and I explain to them that there's only really two causes of any disease. And again, allopathy and naturopathy agree on this. And this is that either there's a overtoxicity in the body that leads to a disease, too many toxins for the body to cope, or a deficiency. So we need enough water to function. Our brain is swimming in water. First thing when someone has a headache, is drink water, not just a little bit, 2 cups. How do you feel? So we need nutrients. We all know that. We can't just eat mud or stone. We need quality food that have nutrition inside. And if I talk with a person and they explain me their diet, of course, eating certain foods is great, but what toxins do they contain? How are they processed? Yeah, so very often you then discover that most people might consider themselves as eating healthy, and they think, oh yeah, I'm eating vegetables, but then how are the vegetables prepared? How are they cooked? Most diseases are based on over acidity in the body. So a lot of cooking processes are extremely acidic. One of them is, most of the world might use that, is cooking with oil, with olive oil or other
Or even
oils.
worse, all the canola and all the other, very cheap
Yes,
fats.
sunflower oils. Yes, so the heating up of them, of these oils, leads to extreme acidity and leads to trans fats in the pancreas and the spleen. And that over time, this is just one of the things that we most likely do on a daily basis, leads to acidity. And then, of course, I will establish a basis with the clients and then say, okay, we can talk about remedies, things that you can take to help yourself. And this is always easier. It's always easier to add something or to replace something. It's easier to say, take this vaping thing and leave the cigarette away. Always also makes more money if you think from a business perspective than telling people to stop something. Okay. I like to say, stop the smoking thing completely. Don't just say, hey, the vaping thing comes now. Very, very toxic chemicals inside. So if I'm telling people, then, okay, here comes the difficult part. You have to change your diet and not just replace something, but leave something away for a while. Then, you will find people struggling with that and saying, oh, I don't know if I can live without cheese, I can live without the cigarette or without the biscuits or whatever it might be, sugar, many people, big thing, Coca-Cola. So it's mindset, habits. We can take things to help us. If it's a remedy solution that kills a virus, let's say, or if it's very good food like chlorella that nourishes the body, but leaving out is 50% of the other side,
Yeah, so basically it's you take, let's say there's 20,000 toxins coming into your body per week, right? And then you add a lot of nutrients, that's great. But if you keep pumping your body with those toxins without taking out, well, okay, you've added something, but you're still pumping, right? So you need to take something out, right? But
Yes.
of course, some people can have a scale, right? You start adding good stuff, and the idea would be that if you add a lot of good stuff, you will eventually be nourished, and the cravings that you have, maybe they will fall away. So you do some reductionism approach, but not so harshly. So I would say it depends, right? If you're really sick, you want to take really quick measures, right? But
Yes.
if you're just doing it for prevention, maybe you can have a longer game. But if you
Yes.
really want a good result, right, then you want to be willing.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. It's again. I like to make an example or a connection, a analogy with a car because it's easy. Most people drive it, have one. But if you treat your car better, it will live longer. It will. You will use it longer. It won't break as quick, and you won't have. It even leads to you saving money, not having to spend so much. And people that are reckless with their cars, then things break, and they're complaining about it all the time. So you're right.
Can you give us some examples of people that you help restore their health? Maybe 2, 3 examples from A to Z, so we have some, people have an idea on an actual person, what happened and why.
Yeah. Well, my first one of my first experiences, direct experience with a friend of mine, where I was personally attending. Very often before it was emails, phone, or whatever, but or through someone else. But personally, it was a friend of mine that was bitten by a dog. He developed tetanus. He was not vaccinated for 20 years easy. So, and he developed tetanus symptoms, whole body spasm, extreme pain, extreme fever, locked doors, very dangerous. Big thing when it comes to tetanus, the jaw locks and cramps.
And hold on, and what would the traditional medicine do with that if a person had that?
Antibiotics.
All right.
Antibiotics, first of all, steroids to relieve the swelling of the the muscle cramps, so that the muscles don't spasm. Yeah.
Which would save their life, but there would be something then to heal afterwards. Now, the bacteria would
Yes.
be healed, the good bacteria. The body would probably be very weakened, right?
Yes.
So that's the traditional approach. So what did you do?
So his girlfriend at the time called me. This friend that was suffering knew about what I was doing, who knew about the solutions that I was working with, and he just said, just let him use the solutions. I just want that. I just want him to deal with me. And he didn't ask me really. He just put me on the spot, and it was pretty. I was pretty nervous because it wasn't something minor. You know, he couldn't talk for a while. He was just in pure pain, and he was arching. So it looked pretty intimidating. Of course, because death is an option here. You know, he could have died. Yeah. So I gave him this solution that I spoke about, that I read about.
We can call it. We can say what it is. What is it called?
It's chlorine dioxide.
Chlorine dioxide.
Yes. Yeah. So very important right away. If I talk about chlorine dioxide, or chlorine dioxide is it is diluted chlorine dioxide. So we're talking about.
We're not talking about bleach, people. We are talking about the solution. We're not talking about. So when you look at the alcohol, you don't take 100% alcohol. You take 4% or 12% or whatever percent. So when you look at the substance, we take certain percentage of it, right? Diluted.
Yes. So the bleach thing is a big one. Bleach per se that we have in our household is sodium hypochlorite.
So it's
a
different
thing.
Yeah.
We're not. But even that can be used to purify water, and I can talk about that later. About if you remind me about New Zealand, Natalia, I can make a good example. But we're talking about chlorine dioxide, and this is a chlorine molecule with two oxygen molecules. We're talking about drops, a few milliliters maybe, with a glass of water with 200-300 milliliters. So a very big diluted version of it. And I'm expressing this very much because mainstream media and so on, they fearmonger about, oh my God, chlorine dioxide, drinking that is toxic. I would never drink pure chlorine dioxide, never, you know. Yeah. But this is the gameplay that there is with terms. So I gave my friend chlorine dioxide in a certain proportion, water to chlorine dioxide, on an hourly basis. He had to drink it. At the time, I already used it myself for 3-4 years, I think that was. And I applied it topically. I applied another solution called DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide, very known in the medical establishment. Fantastic career history about it. There's not a lot of negative stuff about DMSO. It's still known and used, but it's not at the disposal of from your doctor. Your doctor most likely won't know it and won't offer it to you, but it is a very potent anti-inflammatory solution. It's a transporter liquid. So anything that DMSO comes in contact with, it will carry into the body. And that's how it has been studied numerous times, 14,000 times.
So it is natural medicine itself, and also transporter for other medicine, or not only medicine, whatever, right? So
cosmetics. So DMSO is being used in cosmetics very much. So I applied DMSO and chlorine dioxide on his gland system, the endocrine system, and the back, and so on. And he started to improve. I stayed the night, and he started to calm down. Temperature started to normalize. The body spasms got less and stopped. He was able to breathe again, breathe normal again, and speak again a bit as well. And there was a moment where I thought, I think we killed the infection.
Okay, great.
Now, of course, the body has gone through an ordeal. I like to make an example with, if your house is on fire, or if a house is on fire, the firefighters come and they get rid of the fire, they extinguish the fire, and then they go again. But now the fire has damaged the building quite much. Now we have to send other people and other experts to repair the house. So when it comes to this, and this is something doctors leave out when they recommend chemotherapy. Let's bomb the place, but then how can you repair the place? They leave out, which is going to be nutrition. So me having had the impression that the infection is now under control, is gone, I moved to vitamin C, pure powder, high concentrated vitamin C, orally. So I'm not talking about milligrams, I'm talking about grams. Diluted in water, he drank that, and it was from then on, it was just uphill. So he started to improve drastically, and his energy came back. So his mitochondria, which is the energy production in your cells, started to produce enough energy again, so that he was able to stand, and fever was gone. And I protocoled the whole experience, and in total it was 36 hours from me starting to him being up and training with me again. I think we went for a run after that, or we did some exercise right after.
Well, that's amazing. Well, that's one then. Do you have a story maybe about the recent 2-year shebang that with the C word that we are going through in the world?
Yes. Well, right from the start of the situation, the health situation that we have on the planet, is that we have been contacted very early on about problems with certain viruses, I think. And we had contact with, easy 100 people, but 26 people that were positive were clients that we helped, that we treated. Treated means that most of them were international, of course, so it was all around the world, USA, Germany, Australia, and so on. So it was like we now, video camera, video consultation, or email on the phone, and they acquired the remedy, they acquired the solutions, and then we guided them how to use it. So, and
the solution we're talking about, also chlorine.
Correct, chlorine dioxide.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And I remember one gentleman, 76 years old. He was positive. He was symptomatic. He had fever. It was in the middle of the lockdown, 2020, and they, they were afraid about mainstream. The hospitals were full, apparently. So they used carbon dioxide in a stronger regimen than usual, because we're dealing with an acute problem now. And it took 4 hours. 4 hours from fever and all the symptoms to him saying, "Hey, I feel really good again." This was his words. I'm quoting him. "I feel really good," because I spoke to him directly. And no, he didn't use any.
Yeah, you had a lot of examples yourself, so we can, without any doubt, without shadow of doubt, we can say that there exists gazillion cases all over the world, because we know Ecuador, Bolivia, doctors have been healing with this since the beginning, and they healed thousands upon thousands. I watched doctor in Mexico. I mean, he's talking about, hundreds of thousands of people that he helped with that substance, right? Mm-hmm. So why is this substance helping? We're not going to go into why it is not available and shouted through the roof by doctors, because everybody has a brain, okay?
Yeah.
But
why is it helping?
Yeah, why does it work?
Right. Why does it work? Well, chlorine dioxide is nothing new. The world uses chlorine dioxide since 120 years in almost every industry, from the start of the importation and exportation of meats. The risk was always contamination of the products, of the meats, traveling long distances over ships and so on. So, fruit exporters and vegetable exporters bring their produce through a disinfection process. Chlorine dioxide is the world's most known and most powerful disinfectant. And this is not a theory, this is fact, and this is how we use it. It's a disinfectant. The US I believe, use chlorine dioxide to put into the drinking water, into the tap water, into the water supply for
Doesn't
the
actually.
country.
Mhm.
Hospitals use it. Military uses chlorine dioxide, if not also sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is the main component to generate chlorine dioxide. That it works, we don't have to discuss. It would be a waste of time and funds to look, hey, does it really work? The main discovery is, can we use it for our body waters? And the way it simply works is we have minimal amounts of chlorine dioxide in our gut, in our stomach. It's one of the acids, it's not really an acid, but one of the substances that we produce to disinfect foods that come in. And this is one of the first tasks that the stomach does. Food comes in and the stomach has a certain acidity, and it needs a certain acidity to disinfect the foods, and then it goes into the different sections. And chlorine dioxide is at a voltage that is good enough to, or low enough, let's say, low enough to not harm our good healthy cells, but it's strong enough to destroy, chemically speaking, oxidizing anything that is an enemy to the body. So an anaerobic pathogen is a disease cell. An anaerobic pathogen is a virus, a bacteria, a cancer cell, a parasite, heavy metals, funguses. And chlorine dioxide is strong enough to react with these pathogens, but is not interested. Chemically, even, it's impossible to even attend the healthy cell, the healthy skin, even the good bacteria. Many people instantly ask me, what about the good bacteria I have in my gut that contribute to an immune system? That's a different bacteria. That's a lot bigger, it's a lot stronger, it has a different voltage. And chlorine dioxide cannot harm good bacteria, it cannot harm any good cells. And so the way it works, it simply oxidizes, it reacts with anaerobic pathogens that are in the body. From, again, viruses, and I do not care how the virus is called, the molecular structure is the same, to venoms, to the venom, the poison of spiders, snakes, toxins, certain vaccines, of course, as well. Yeah.
So is it okay to say that this substance, unless the disease is, I mean, coming genetically, some like 1% of diseases are genetically based, where you pass it on, right? So can you think of anything that this could not help with?
Broken heart.
Oh, of course, we talked about trauma and you know, when you have an accident and all of that, but any chronic disease, any metabolic disease, right? Anything that is coming from lifestyle, so viruses, bacteria. First of all, people also might think, people might forget where diseases are originating, right? You said originally that it's overload, toxic overload, right? And
Yes.
lack of nourishment, right?
Yeah.
That those were the two main things. So something happens to our cells, they get damaged or they get mutated, right? Or something happens, and we can restore the health of our cells, bring it to
Yeah.
homeostasis, bring it to balance, right?
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
can do it thanks to this substance. I mean, when I did the research, you shared some great documentaries with me. If people would like to know more, please ask us. We'll send you the link to documentaries where we don't have the time to discuss, you know, the incredible volume of what
Yes.
this thing can do, right? But uh, please do yourself a favor, I'm telling to the viewers, and ignore, or I mean, you can go on and watch ridiculous propaganda about this substance, or you can put your brain on and you can start asking questions, and we will send you documentaries for you to look at, books to read, and then have your own conclusions. I watched the documentary that you sent me, and you know, famous people, celebrities were even talking about their own adventures. Somebody released some horrible skin disease, you know, by drinking that. Another person got rid of herpes, and well, medicine with genital herpes, and we are hearing that you can't heal that, but yet this person did. Another person did this HISV virus, right? The one that is responsible for cervical cancer.
Yeah.
HIV, I mean, the C virus that is very popular these days, right? I mean, range and range and range of things, right? So whatever, I would say that whatever people are facing right now, it would be smart to ask, can this help? And test it, right?
Yeah. Well, the discoverer, Jim Humble, the discoverer of this, I even use a quote of his on my website that chlorine dioxide can, and I'm quoting him, replace between 50 to 80% of all pharmaceuticals.
Wow. Well, that I'll let it hang now. 50 to 80% of farms. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
In the world of big pharma.
And he also says it can eradicate about 95% of all diseases.
Wow.
He has focused in his life, he is primarily focused on malaria. Malaria is a parasite. It's a very fragile parasite. It's easier to treat malaria than it is flu, the flu virus, with CDS, with many things, just because there's a resistance question, but anyway. And he treated 25,000 people that had malaria. And he made a calculation and an estimation that he said we could rid the planet of malaria. Malaria could be a thing of the past from planet Earth. And we can do the same with many other disease-causing things, not just in Africa, but what was something that he always explained very much is as well that one of the biggest factors, contributing factors to the third world, let's talk about Africa being in the being a third world and being poor, is disease. People literally cannot work because they're so disease-ridden, and it leads to lack of education. They can't afford schools or can't even move. They don't even live long enough. So if you take away the disease, so if you introduce a solution that deals with diseases in this continent very quickly, people develop more energy by being disease-free. They will move, literally speaking. They will build, they will contribute, they will work, economy will rise, more money will flow to this continent. Yeah. Maybe it flows away from the first world and to the second world, to the third world, I mean. So, and maybe there are interests, there are organizations maybe that know about this, that are aware of this, and they say, hey, we don't want that. We don't want this to change. So maybe there's an interest in not ridding certain diseases off this planet, but it is very cheap. And again, Jim Humble that used carbon dioxide in Africa, it is extremely cheap to look alone at malaria. And so it goes with many other diseases.
Give us another example of what you helped heal with this.
Right. Well, both my parents had cancer.
Oh wow! Well, does it get better than that? So what happened?
Yeah. So cancer is becoming a norm. I mean, I'm in my mid-30s, but I know when I remember when I was around 10 or 11 and I heard of cancer in the family. I think my aunt had cancer at the point. It was this, oh, sometimes it happens. It was this idea of, oh, I hope I never get cancer. But today it's like this, hey, what else do you want to die of mentality in the world? Mm-hmm. It's either that or car crash or the C word, maybe. But so...
The other C word.
Yes. So, but my mother developed breast cancer. And the old saying goes, you are never a saint in your own home. My parents knew what I was doing and what I've told them and my experiences and so on. So, but it was extremely difficult to tell my mother what not to do, maybe the first thing, and what to do instead. And to my parents, I can say, do not take chemotherapy, because My mother was in a condition at the point where I think chemotherapy, if she had done it, if she went through it, would have killed her. Yeah. That's my estimation, the way that I saw it.
I'm just going to say here, there's a great book, What Doctors Don't Tell You, by investigative journalist Lynn McTaggart. And she says there, she gives data that 75% of doctors would not do chemo themselves. So think about it that way also. Why not, right? We're not going to give you any suggestions, but like put your mind on why. Yeah. So you saved your mom. Number one, you asked her not to do it.
I'm pretty humble when it comes to these things. I like to say I helped her save herself. But yes, she did not go the traditional route. She went to the oncologist. She had the scans done. She was pressured heavily into starting chemotherapy. She refused. Okay, then we have to do radiation, was the next comment. And they even were as blunt as, then the cancer will spread and you will die. You won't live longer than X amount, whatever. It wasn't a very advanced cancer. It wasn't stage 4. There was no metastasis. It was small, but anyway. So I told her to lower her acidity in the body. Number 1 was stop drinking alcohol when it comes to disease. I gave her a few other suggestions when it came to her diet and cooking processes, the oil that I mentioned earlier, the frying process. I told her, of course, about chlorine dioxide. Chlorine dioxide, even diluted, is not the most pleasant thing to drink. It smells or tastes a little bit like drinking a gulp from a chlorinated pool. If you have to do this frequently over the day because you want to treat something, it can annoy you. It can make you, reject it, normal. But when it comes to a life-threatening condition, put it on a scale. What would you rather? So additionally, I told her, of course, as I wasn't living with her, I couldn't control her if she was drinking it. I told her to apply it topically onto the area. And she did that. And she changed her lifestyle. She took a few supplements as well. Antioxidants she started to take. And I think 2 months, I still have the sheet from the hospital. I think 2 months later, she went for the next scan, and her description on the phone was that the doctor looked at the scans and started to shake his head, but was positive. And he just said, well, that's really good. That's really good. And so he mumbled, and my mother then asked, and how does it look like? And she said, good, 70% less cancer. We can't call it cancer anymore. Mm-hmm. But then he changed. I mean, this oncologist was her treating GP, and he, of course, knew this patient did not do chemotherapy. She didn't even go to a different clinic to do chemotherapy. So the doctor knew, okay, there was no chemotherapy, there was no radiation, cancer's disappearing. Hey, what did you do? Would be the thing that would come into a sane mind, maybe, if I'm interested in recovering and helping people to recover. But that was missing. His next question, or his next comment was, okay, you are cancer-free. She got the all clear. Now is a good moment to do radiation.
Wow. Okay.
Then, in that moment, then the oncologist lost my mother completely. And she said, okay, I understand enough to this point. Thank you, goodbye. Cancer gone. Never returned.
And then she continued with self-care and maintenance, yes. And now she's happy, and many years later, beautifully functioning, yeah.
Yes, of course, the next thing is that if something disappears because you did something, you added something, left something away, or both, doesn't mean that when it disappears, you can go back to normal. Again, cause and effect, like I mentioned at the beginning. What have you done? Go back to what you did, even if you didn't know what caused the disease. If you go back to exactly what you did, maybe the same thing will happen again. The same explanation happens when you listen to people about business. What do you do that leads to success, and what do you do that leads to a failure? So change what you do and stick to that, what works. So I told my mother, keep on taking, simply to rinse the body of, lower the acidity even further. It doesn't need to be just cancer gone. How about weight loss? How about just improving all the organs and getting rid of the toxins in your 60-plus-year-old body, right? So, and then again, it gets a bit more difficult, if you tell people, hey, keep on with the new habits, because they would like to go back to the old habits.
Who said Franklin, I believe, that prevention is worth a pound of cure, but we, the creatures, human creatures, we're not so on to, prevention. But when the red light is on, okay, let's do this, right?
Yes, and we can move and we can do phenomenal stuff. But then again, there are many. There exists a lot of literature of minerals, of solutions that have amazing stories. There's not just. I don't want people to believe, hey, there's this new discovery of this chlorine dioxide, and
No.
there are many of them. The story of chlorine dioxide and the power it really has or could have globally is one to none. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. But if we're only focusing or asking ourselves, how can I help myself dealing with a disease or preventing disease, there are many of these solutions, and they have existed since 100 years, some even since thousands of years. And you have to wonder, were we stupid, ignorant, and sick in the Middle Ages and even further down the line? How did we become 7 billion people? So what we do have is we have now 2022. Since 100 years, since 100 years, we have modern medicine. And we call it modern medicine because it was financed, Rockefeller, I think it was in the 1920s. And that modern medicine established into this world industry of control of the society's health, supplying a product, treating symptoms, and also research was funded. Not only research to develop new stuff, but also researching old stuff and saying, hey, this doesn't work anymore. But then again, 20,000 years of human life on this planet, and we never need modern medicine.
Of course, and all this stuff is readily available for people to research. Probably we'll have to go deeper than first few pages of Google, deeper further, and ask maybe unusual questions to get to the bottom of it. But the stuff is out there, especially there's a lot of independent media, as well, and you can find the information. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, so we need to wrap it up. We don't have time for more stories, but I'll invite you again and we'll continue. So if you can just tell 3 things that people can do to restore and enhance their health, no matter what is going on, what would you tell them? What everybody can do? If you're suffering from something, if you're sick, if you're not feeling good, what would you do? 3 things.
Number 1 is drink more water.
Clean, pure water, yeah.
Yes, the oldest remedy known to humankind, the oldest way known to humankind, before we had microscopes, before we had scans or anything, was stop eating. And the native Indians, and there are many tribes still that exist, North America and Alaska and so on, still practice that. They don't go to a guy that has a doctor title or a PhD or something. What they do is when they feel bad, whatever it may be, is stop putting stuff into your body, simply because digestion consumes a lot of food. Digestion consumes a lot of energy. And the more dense and complex the food is, animal protein, the more energy is needed to digest the food. So at the same time, the body is a incredible, amazing, still not fully discovered invention by someone. There must be a designer that, if you look more deeper into it, you think, wow, who designed this? This can't be coincidence. But it wants to restore. It does restore yourself. It wants to keep you alive at every moment in your existence. And it does this in beautiful different synergies of reactions inside your body. So when there is a disease, when there's an invader, if it's a virus, a bacteria, or a cancer cell, if you stop eating difficult food, in particular carbohydrates, animal protein, milk, dairy, your body will have more energy at the disposal to deal with the problem, and you will not die. You will not starve. You won't faint because you don't have energy. The body will adapt. The body is not a machine. It is a beautiful machine, but it has a soul. It has, I don't want to go too complex into the matter, but it has so much more to offer. It has so much more magic happening that it will save itself. Again, who is the body? Someone else than me, my mind? Would be a different podcast again, but if you leave it enough energy, if you let it rest and don't give it the bread and the alcohol and the cigarettes and the steaks and whatnot and the candy, whatnot, it will find a way to restore itself. So if you give it enough water to flush out the toxins and enough energy, you can deal with most things already now. Then we can...
Yeah, tell me, because we have literally like minutes. I have to cut it. Yeah. I'll cut you half sentence.
Okay, so afterwards we can talk about using something like chlorine dioxide, which is cheap, efficient, unharmful, fast, and only contributes.
I'll sum it up. Drink water, stop eating, rest, start using, not you by yourself, contact you, Tobias, and you actually give free consultation first, so it doesn't cost you much. The product is very cheap. You can get it all around. You also can sell it. You have some great products that you're selling. So here is the contact for Tobias. That's your website, laubeholistic.com, right?
Correct, yes.
And you can connect with him on Facebook. So those are the three things. The body is a machine that can heal itself. You need to create condition. So water, stop eating, contact the dude. And he will tell you what to do. And he will do it for free initially. He will give you enough information so you can start healing really beautifully. And I have been doing those things naturally for years, and I know it works. It really works. So don't torture yourself. Get in touch with Tobias, do some research, and don't believe in mainstream because their agendas are driven by money. That's what I'm going to say, And we're not driven by money. We're driven by the desire, genuine passion to help people help themselves and be free, right? To make this
beautifully said. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I'm just going to cut you now. We will come back with Tobias, but we don't have more time. We have to put this on Instagram, and it just does not allow us go more than 1 hour. So thank you so much. It was awesome, but we could do 3 hours, I'm sure. So we will be back in a few weeks, and we'll continue. So that's his website. Make some comments. If you have questions, please post them. We'll answer them later on. This will be on YouTube, will be on Facebook. So just make comments and we will address them. And get in touch with Tobias Laube, and he will help you out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we could talk about restoring and enhancing health for hours, but this was just a little teaser, okay? So thank you, everybody. Join me next week with Rebecca Saxton, awesome divine feminine coach, and we'll talk about sovereignty. Hasta luego. Till later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.